The moment the WNBA commissioner hinted at the possibility of suspending Caitlin Clark, the entire sports world froze. Fans were stunned. Analysts were speechless. But nobody, absolutely nobody, was ready for what came next. Because just hours later, Stephen A. Smith walked into the studio with that unmistakable fire in his eyes. And the second he opened his mouth, it was clear something big was about to drop. This wasn't calm Stephen A. This wasn't measured Stephen A. This was I've had enough Stephen A. Smith, the version that only appears when a line has been crossed. As soon as he heard the commissioner's warning, Stephen A. didn't just respond. He unloaded. He leaned forward, pointed straight into the camera, and delivered a message so sharp, so direct, and so unapologetic that it sent shockwaves through both leagues. His voice cut through social media like a blade, instantly dominating every timeline, every feed, every trending list. He didn't just defend Caitlin Clark. He didn't just call out the league. He put the commissioner in her place, publicly, loudly, and with a level of intensity that made even the ESPN crew shift in their seats. Clips spread like wildfire. Fans erupted. Players reacted. Commentators scrambled to respond. Overnight, Stephen A.'s explosive takedown became the headline nobody could ignore. Was he right? Was he out of line? Was this the moment the WNBA finally got called out on the national stage? One thing is undeniable. Stephen A. Smith didn't just speak up. He detonated a conversation that the league can no longer run from. And what he said next is the part the commissioner definitely didn't want to hear. Stay locked in, because this moment changed everything. The tension had already been building for weeks. Every press conference, every post-game interview, every highlight clip involving Caitlin Clark felt like gasoline being poured over a fire that the WNBA could no longer control. Fans were arguing everywhere: barbershops, Twitter spaces, Instagram comments, live streams, you name it. The debate had become louder, messier, and more emotional than anyone expected. But then the WNBA commissioner stepped on stage for what was supposed to be a calm, routine media briefing. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, and the room felt strangely heavy. Everyone knew the league was under pressure. Everyone knew the Caitlin Clark situation had become bigger than the WNBA itself. But nobody, absolutely nobody, predicted the moment that would follow. A reporter stood up and asked the question the entire sports world had been waiting to hear. Is Caitlin Clark in any danger of suspension due to recent league tensions? The room fell silent. The commissioner cleared her throat, adjusted the microphone, and delivered the sentence that would explode across the internet. We're monitoring her conduct and the environment closely. If necessary, disciplinary actions, including suspension, are options we may consider. Gasps rippled through the room. Reporters glanced at each other with wide eyes. Phones lit up instantly. This wasn't just a warning. It was a statement that landed like a punch to the gut of every fan who believed Caitlin Clark was the future of the league. The commissioner tried to soften her words, but it was too late. That clip spread like wildfire. Within minutes, it hit every sports account, every aggregator, every news timeline. But there was one man, one voice, who heard that sentence and felt his blood pressure rising like a storm. Stephen A. Smith. The ESPN studio was quiet that morning, but everyone around him could tell he was not in his usual mood. He wasn't joking. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't prepping his notes with his normal dramatic flair. He was staring at the monitor, replaying the commissioner's comments over and over, each time getting more irritated. "You all right, Stephen?" a producer whispered cautiously. Stephen A. didn't respond. He just shook his head and exhaled sharply, because he knew something that the WNBA didn't fully understand. You can debate players. You can debate teams. But when you threaten to suspend the most impactful rookie the league has seen in decades, you are messing with the business of basketball. And that is exactly the line the commissioner had crossed. As the cameras prepared to roll, someone in his earpiece asked if he wanted to adjust the segment, maybe tone it down. Stephen A. snapped instantly. "Oh no. Oh no. We are not toning a damn thing down today." The countdown started. 2. Stephen A. leaned forward, ready to unleash something ESPN hadn't heard in years. The red light flashed, and he went off. The words poured out of him like a verbal thunderstorm. His voice was controlled, yet explosive. Calm, yet boiling. Every sentence felt like a hammer hitting steel. But what triggered this level of fury? Why did this moment break him? Because Stephen A. understood the bigger picture, one the commissioner seemed dangerously unaware of. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player. She wasn't just a rookie. She wasn't just another name on a roster. She was a phenomenon. She was ticket sales. She was sponsorship money. She was record-breaking viewership. She was the future fans had begged for. And the idea, even the idea, that the league could suspend her during its most successful and highly watched season in years was, in Stephen A.'s words, absolute nonsense. It wasn't long before tensions that had been building behind the scenes began to surface. Players were tired. Fans were divided. The media was stirring. Every foul Caitlin drew, every bump she took, every quote from veterans became magnified 10 times over. Stephen A. wasn't blind to the dynamics. He saw the resentment. He saw the pressure. He saw the way the commissioner had been tiptoeing around the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, supporting it publicly, but quietly struggling with the spotlight she brought. So when the commissioner spoke about possible suspension, Stephen A. heard something deeper. A warning, a threat, a hint of frustration, a signal that the league was cracking under the weight of its own success. And that was the moment he decided he wasn't going to stay silent. Back in the arena where the press conference happened, reporters were still buzzing, trying to clarify the commissioner's words. Her communications team scrambled to reframe the narrative, saying she wasn't specifically targeting Caitlin, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Across social media, fans exploded. They're trying to control her. Suspension. For what? Existing. This league is losing its mind. No way Stephen A. stays quiet about this. The stage was set. ESPN's broadcast rejoined the studio. Stephen A. sat with his hands clasped, eyes locked on the camera. His co-host shot him a nervous look, knowing he was about to detonate. And he did. He put the commissioner on blast. Not disrespectfully, not personally, but truthfully in a way only Stephen A. could. He didn't scream nonsense. He didn't rant without substance. He delivered a surgical takedown, one built on business, logic, and passion. He pointed out the numbers. He pointed out the fan engagement. He pointed out the massive attention Caitlin had brought to the league. He pointed out how dangerous and reckless it was to even hint at suspending her. And most importantly, he warned the commissioner to stop playing with fire. The entire studio fell silent. Producers froze. ESPN staff stared. Viewers sat at home with their jaws open. Because Stephen A. didn't just disagree with the commissioner. He called out her judgment. He called out her leadership. He called out her inability to control the narrative. And he made it very clear. If the WNBA wants to keep growing, if they want fans to stay, if they want new viewers, new money, new attention, suspending Caitlin Clark should never, ever be on the table. The moment that segment ended, the internet exploded again, this time louder than before. But Stephen A. didn't care. He had said what he needed to say. And the commissioner, whether she liked it or not, had been put in her place. The morning after Stephen A. Smith's explosive takedown, the sports world was already in chaos. Clips of him calling out the WNBA commissioner had gone viral overnight. Every social media platform, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, was buzzing with reactions. Fans were divided, journalists were debating, and pundits across networks were rerunning the moment frame by frame. The WNBA commissioner, meanwhile, was facing a storm she hadn't anticipated. Her office was flooded with emails, calls, and messages from executives, sponsors, and players. The league's communications team scrambled to respond. They tried to spin the narrative carefully. We're reviewing all comments. Caitlin Clark remains a vital part of our league. But the damage had been done. The message wasn't about words. It was about perception. And Stephen A. had already framed the story. The league was overstepping, threatening a rising superstar in a way that was reckless and unnecessary. Inside the commissioner's office, tension was palpable. Senior staff debated whether to issue a public statement, but every option seemed like a trap. A statement could reignite Stephen A.'s critique. Silence would allow the internet to run wild. Analysts on sports shows were already speculating. Did the commissioner underestimate Stephen A.? Did she miscalculate the backlash? Could this actually damage the league's image with fans and sponsors? Meanwhile, the clips of Stephen A.'s response were spreading like wildfire. One particularly viral snippet had him pointing directly at the camera, saying, "You don't threaten a player who is single-handedly elevating your league without consequences." Comment sections erupted. Stephen A. is speaking the truth. Commissioner needs to take notes. This is why Caitlin Clark is untouchable. Finally, someone holding the league accountable. The fan reaction wasn't subtle either. Social media polls asked, should Caitlin Clark be suspended? Over 90% said no. Fans flooded comment sections, not just defending Caitlin, but criticizing the WNBA's tone. Every viral sports news page was now covering the story. Memes, reaction videos, and highlight compilations started trending. Clips from Stephen A. were stitched into countdown reels, dramatic soundtracks added, and hashtags like #TeamCaitlin and #StephenASpeaks began trending worldwide. Inside the WNBA, players were talking. Locker rooms buzzed with the conversation. Some praised Stephen A. for defending Caitlin. Others were worried about league leadership being publicly called out. One anonymous veteran player told reporters, "It's unusual to see someone go at the commissioner like that, but honestly, she's right. Caitlin's impact is massive, and threatening suspension just doesn't make sense." Even Caitlin Clark herself was feeling the pressure. Though she didn't comment publicly at first, she shared a cryptic Instagram story, a simple image of a basketball with the caption, "Focus on the game, let the rest handle itself." Fans immediately connected this to the Stephen A. incident, interpreting it as a subtle acknowledgement of support. Clips of her highlights from that season were spliced with Stephen A.'s commentary and reposted across TikTok, amassing millions of views. The momentum had shifted dramatically in her favor. Stephen A., meanwhile, wasn't done. The following day, during another broadcast, he returned to the subject with renewed intensity. This time, he broke down the economic impact Caitlin had on the league. Ratings numbers, ticket sales, and sponsorship revenue all pointed to the same conclusion. Suspending her, or even threatening to, was not just reckless, it was financially disastrous. He said, "We're talking about the face of women's basketball right now. Do you understand what that means? If you punish her unfairly, you're punishing the fans, the sponsors, and the league itself." Clips of this second segment also went viral, cementing his narrative. Memes cropped up showing Stephen A. as a guardian of the game, putting the commissioner in check. Reaction videos and debate panels dissected every word, every gesture. Fans debated endlessly. Was Stephen A. defending Caitlin? Or was he defending the league's reputation? Either way, his message had struck hard. The WNBA commissioner finally addressed the backlash publicly in a carefully worded statement. "Caitlin Clark is a valued member of our league. Any comments regarding potential disciplinary action were meant to address general league conduct and not to single out any player. We are committed to supporting our athletes while ensuring the integrity of the game." The statement, however, did little to calm the storm. Media outlets immediately compared it to Stephen A.'s comments, highlighting the contrast. Headlines read, "Stephen A. Smith calls out WNBA commissioner over Caitlin Clark suspension threat. Commissioner under fire after threatening rising star. Stephen A. dominates debate on Caitlin Clark controversy." The backlash was not only online, it reached sponsors and advertisers. Internal memos from the league indicated concern over public perception and social media fallout. Marketing teams were tasked with controlling the narrative, but the viral nature of Stephen A.'s critique made it nearly impossible to contain. Every social media mention, clip, or meme added fuel to the fire. Sports analysts speculated on what would happen next. Would the commissioner double down or retreat? Would Caitlin Clark respond publicly? Could Stephen A.'s intervention change the way the league approached player discipline in the future? The questions spread across every network, and for the first time, the WNBA was being discussed in the context of national sports drama, not just women's basketball. Meanwhile, fan communities exploded. Reddit threads were flooded with clips of Stephen A. versus the commissioner. Twitter polls asked users to rate who was right. YouTube reaction videos dissected every hand gesture, every eye movement, every subtle expression. The debate had transcended the arena and became a cultural conversation about authority, fairness, and the power of star athletes in modern sports. By the end of the day, one thing was clear: Stephen A. Smith hadn't just defended Caitlin Clark. He had sparked a full-blown public debate about the WNBA's leadership, player protection, and league policies. Every major sports outlet covered the story, fan engagement soared, and the narrative surrounding Caitlin Clark shifted dramatically. What had started as a warning from the commissioner had turned into a moment of accountability, sparked by one of sports media's most influential voices. And for the fans, the drama wasn't over. Clips continued to circulate, reactions poured in, and the sports world waited eagerly for the next move. whether it would come from the commissioner, Caitlin, or Stephen A. himself. The stage was set for an unprecedented showdown in women's basketball, a clash of star power, league authority, and media influence. And the world was watching, glued to every clip, every tweet, and every explosive commentary. By the third day of the controversy, the story had taken on a life of its own. Clips of Stephen A. Smith's fiery takedown had been replayed millions of times across every platform imaginable. Social media feeds were flooded with reaction videos, memes, debate threads, and fan commentary. Headlines screamed about the WNBA commissioner being put in her place, and Caitlin Clark's name was trending alongside Stephen A.'s like never before. But until now, Caitlin had remained silent. Her team had instructed her to stay off social media and avoid public commentary until the storm either settled or a clear statement could be drafted. She knew the stakes. She knew that one misstep could fuel more controversy. She also understood the immense responsibility she carried, not just as a player, but as a symbol of women's basketball in the modern era. Every word, every post, every gesture would be scrutinized, amplified, and debated. Fans had noticed her silence immediately. Speculation ran wild. Some praised her restraint. She's letting Stephen A. handle it. Smart move. Others worried. Why isn't she defending herself? Is she really okay? Every fan, analyst, and sports commentator had an opinion. Even casual NBA watchers were now following WNBA news closely because of the drama surrounding the potential suspension. Finally, Caitlin Clark broke her silence. She posted a carefully crafted Instagram story that instantly went viral. A photo of herself on the court mid-jump shot, captioned simply, "Focused on the game. Everything else is noise." It was brief, calm, and unassuming, but the response was immediate. Within minutes, tens of thousands of fans shared, commented, and reposted. The sentiment was overwhelmingly supportive. Fans interpreted the post as a message not just to her critics, but to the WNBA itself. She would not be intimidated, and she was there to play basketball, not engage in unnecessary drama. On X, the reaction was instantaneous. Hashtags like #TeamCaitlin, #CaitlinClarkStrong, and #WNBAStar were trending nationwide. Fans praised her for staying composed, contrasting her calm approach with the chaos that had erupted around her. Memes quickly followed, portraying Caitlin as the calm center in a storm of controversy, while Stephen A. was framed as the outspoken protector of her talent. Meanwhile, the WNBA commissioner attempted to control the narrative once again, issuing a brief statement. Caitlin Clark is a valued player and a key part of the league's growth. Our focus remains on supporting all athletes while maintaining the integrity of the game. While professional, the statement failed to satisfy fans or media. Analysts quickly pointed out the contrast between the commissioner's measured language and Stephen A. Smith's fiery critique. Sports journalists dissected every word of the statement on live TV, debating whether it was an attempt to diffuse tension or a subtle acknowledgement of misjudgment. The public interpreted it as the latter, adding fuel to Stephen A.'s argument. Fan communities online exploded. Reddit threads discussing the incident had thousands of comments within hours. Some debated the ethical implications. Was it fair for the league to even suggest disciplinary action for a rising superstar? Others celebrated Caitlin's poise and Stephen A.'s intervention. YouTube reaction channels dedicated entire videos to analyzing every frame of Stephen A.'s commentary and Caitlin's Instagram post, each video receiving millions of views. TikTok creators created edits juxtaposing Stephen A.'s warnings with Caitlin's highlights, framing her as the undaunted star in a sea of controversy. The media storm also reached traditional sports networks. Analysts debated the broader implications for women's sports. Did the league risk alienating fans by hinting at suspensions? Was Stephen A.'s defense a necessary intervention to protect athlete power in the modern era? Panels discussed how Caitlin Clark's popularity was reshaping WNBA viewership and sponsorship deals, with ratings for recent games skyrocketing compared to previous seasons. Even outside sports media, the controversy made headlines. Mainstream news outlets highlighted the clash between league authority and media influence. Opinion pieces praised Stephen A.'s willingness to hold leadership accountable and Caitlin's restraint in responding to the tension. Social commentary articles dissected how fan-driven narratives could pressure professional organizations in real time, illustrating a modern dynamic where athletes, fans, and media personalities intersect to shape public perception. Meanwhile, Caitlyn's teammates and other WNBA stars began weighing in. Some voiced their support online with simple posts like, "Proud of you, Caitlyn. Keep your head up. Stay focused. You're doing amazing." Others offered more analytical commentary, praising her ability to stay composed under pressure and highlighting the broader implications for player advocacy within the league. Players' supportive messages reinforced the narrative that Caitlyn's focus on the game, rather than the controversy, was a model of professionalism in an era dominated by social media scrutiny. Sponsors and partners also took notice. Brand representatives monitored the online sentiment, noting the overwhelmingly positive response to Caitlyn's measured approach. Social media engagement data showed that content featuring her performance received exponential reach and interaction compared to commentary about the potential suspension. Analysts speculated that Caitlyn's popularity and the viral coverage of the Stephen A. incident was boosting overall WNBA viewership and sponsorship visibility. Amid all this, Stephen A. Smith returned to ESPN with renewed energy. On air, he praised Caitlin Clark for handling the controversy with grace, while simultaneously reminding the league of the potential consequences of mismanaging such a high-profile athlete. His commentary was both analytical and fiery, breaking down the economics, fan loyalty, and public perception tied to Caitlin's presence in the league. Clips of this broadcast quickly went viral again, solidifying the narrative that Caitlin's talent and professionalism had effectively been validated by Stephen A.'s intervention. The fan reaction reached new heights. Across social media platforms, supporters created content celebrating Caitlyn as a role model. Videos highlighting her gameplay juxtaposed with Stephen A.'s critique of the league, infographics showing her impact on viewership, and memes portraying the commissioner as being put in her place by both Caitlyn's poise and Stephen A.'s outspoken defense. The virality of these posts further amplified Caitlyn's brand, elevating her to a status rarely achieved by athletes in the early stages of their careers. By the end of the third day, the narrative was clear. Caitlin Clark had emerged unscathed. The WNBA commissioner, despite her careful attempts at damage control, had been publicly challenged and forced to recalibrate. Stephen A. Smith had positioned himself as a defender of athletes' interests and an influencer capable of shaping public perception in real time. Fans had rallied behind Caitlyn, turning her into not just a basketball star, but a symbol of resilience, professionalism, and the modern athlete's ability to navigate both performance and controversy. The incident would continue to dominate headlines for weeks, shaping discussions about league authority, media influence, and athlete advocacy. And one undeniable fact emerged. Caitlin Clark, guided by her focus on the game and bolstered by Stephen A.'s intervention, had turned a potentially negative situation into a defining moment of her young career. Before you scroll past, stop for a second, because this story is far from over. What you've just seen, the commissioner's warning, Stephen A. Smith putting her in her place, Caitlin Clark's viral response. This is only the beginning. The debate isn't over. The reactions are still flooding social media, and the next twist could change everything. Here's what I need you to do right now. Backhand index pointing right, smash that like button if you think Stephen A. Smith was 100% right to defend Caitlin Clark. Every like pushes this video to more fans who need to see the truth unfold. Backhand index pointing right, comment below with your thoughts. Was the commissioner out of line? Did Caitlin handle the situation perfectly? Or do you think Stephen A. took it too far? I'm reading every comment because your opinion matters, and the fan debate alone is blowing up right now. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this story is still developing. Interviews, statements, fan reactions, and behind-the-scenes insights are coming fast, and you'll want to be the first to see them. Missing out now means missing the next viral moment in this epic saga. This isn't just a WNBA story. It's not just a media showdown. It's about accountability, power, and how athletes and influencers are shaping the game in real time. So stay locked in, stay ready, and join the conversation that millions are already talking about worldwide. The commissioner, Stephen A., and Caitlin Clark have set the stage, but the next chapter is going to shock you. Don't watch from the sidelines, be part of it. Click like, comment your take, subscribe. Be ready for the drama that's still unfolding. This is basketball history in the making. Fire basketball.